And now, one question that this might raise in the minds of those who are listening to us is, okay, well, maybe colonization was a bad idea.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go.
Should never have happened.
They shouldn't have been there.
Shouldn't have been there. Shouldn't have been there. And having discovered, what was happening in the frontier, how all the utopian ideals of London were falling apart on the frontier, they should have gone back. So here's the thing. Aboriginal Australia, because it had been cut off from the rest of the world, had not developed in the way that other peoples had. Technologically and politically, it was very simple and very vulnerable. Sooner or later, the outside world was going to come to Aboriginal Australia. If it hadn't been for the British, it would have been the French.
Well, they nearly got here ahead of us.
They did.
Almost.
They did. God help Australia if that happened.
Absolutely.
But much worse would have been if the Maori had come. Now, the Maori had already got to Norfolk Island, which I think is halfway between Auckland and Sydney. The two canoes were discovered there in the 1790s. The Maori they had crossed large bodies of water. When the Maori invaded the Chatham Islands in 1835, what did they do? They slaughtered 10% of the population and enslaved the rest. Okay? That could have happened to Aboriginal Australia. So when we talk about the British arriving, we need to put it in that context. If it weren't the British, it would have been someone else. Could have been much worse. And the fact that, as Steve rightly said, the attitude of the likes of Arthur Phillip, who led the first fleet, and then subsequently Lachlan Macquarie, were extraordinarily enlightened, extraordinarily egalitarian. And this egalitarian impulse, the notion that all human beings, regardless of race and regardless of the level of cultural development, are equal in the sight of God, and that's what powered the movement to abolish slavery in the late 1700s and expanded in the 1830s to a general concern for Aboriginal peoples. That is why Aboriginal peoples were granted the vote in New South Wales and Victoria in the 1850s. That is why Black Africans were granted the vote in Cape Colony in South Africa in 1853. Maori male Maori in New Zealand in 1867, and Native Canadians in Eastern Canada in 1885. The principle that all people, regardless of race, are equal. Now that's something we take for granted in the modern West, as if it was a universal notion and was part of the cosmic furniture. Nonsense. Lots of cultures then and now do not believe in racial equality. And final point, World Values Survey 2023. Among the questions asked of people in 70 countries was, would you object to having an immigrant as a neighbour? Would you object to having someone of a different race as a neighbour? These are questions designed to detect levels of racism. Canada, Australia and Britain are near the bottom, 4%, 4%, 2%. China, Russia, Iran are near the top. It's not a coincidence that countries that belong to the British Empire are now among the least racist in the world.